Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Chris Bowden with Volcano, and today we're going to take a look at the Tankomizer. Now, a lot of people have been freaking out over this because recently we came out with the Inferno, which was basically a super battery system, gigantic power supply for a magma atomizer. And you can see that here. It's the really big, giant battery, manual control, but it still uses the Inferno atomizer deep down inside. And this is really the heart of your e-cig is the atomizer. Well, after a lot of customer feedback, some really nifty advanced research and development, they've come out with a whole new system. Now, this isn't, it looks very similar to the previous Inferno, and you can take a look at them here. They look almost identical. There's the original Inferno in black on top and the new one on the bottom. Now, these are both the same class of Inferno. It's the smaller battery with the pass-through. But the new Inferno comes out with some new stuff, and the Tankomizer really changes the game. So that's what we're going to take a look at. Now, I'll take the Tankomizer off the top, and you can see the Infernos themselves are pretty much exactly the same. The only real difference is the new one is a hair longer, and that's because it has the screw cap on the USB plug. But under the screw cap, exactly the same thing, okay? What we're interested in is the top, because the Tankomizer, wow, this is neat new stuff. Now, the old Inferno, when you took off the cone on top, the cone was hollow. And you can just see it's a metal housing, right? A little bell housing. Well, this is the Tankomizer, and it's totally different. Instead of being hollow, what it is down inside, you can see there's a needle, and that's the top of an atomizer, which is a much more serious atomizer than the previous one for the magma. And on the bottom, it's the regular screw fitting for the electrical connection and the air feed. There's a couple little notches on there, and you're going to want to remember those. You can see the notches right there. You're going to want to make note of that because we're going to come back to those in a bit. And then there's the mouthpiece, which is referred to as a whistle tip because they're shaped kind of like a whistle. And that has the tank. And you'll also notice there's a couple notches down the side of this, and there's a hole in the end. So over the next couple videos, we're going to cover everything you need to know about your new Tankomizer and how to use it. So let's get started. All right, now even though we're using the Inferno in this video, we're not going to get too heavy into the actual first use of the Inferno because that's covered in great detail in the Inferno video. For this, we're going to focus just on the tank. If you need more information on the Inferno, you can check out the video on the Inferno webpage on the Volcano website. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with your brand new Tankomizer. Now, this is how they come when you first buy them. It'll come in a little plastic case. You just pop it out of the bag. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is it does come with a mouthpiece, but this mouthpiece isn't a tank. It's just a blank tip. If you take it off, it's totally hollow. You can see down inside, it's just a hollow tip. Now, when you get your tanks, they look like this when they arrive empty, and this is called a blank tank. This is the white version. They also come in other colors, like here, for example, is one of the red ones. And they come pre-assembled with their own rubber tip on the end, which is a little rubber stopper that you'll use to keep anything from leaking out when they're in storage. So let's take a look at how to prepare your tank. When you first install your Tankomizer, it'll come with a blank whistle tip, which is just a black tip that doesn't actually have anything inside it. You can see it's totally empty. Now, the first step is to remove the empty tank from the wrapper and take the little rubber seal off the bottom. You'll notice on the bottom of the tank, there will be a centered divot. Well, that centered divot is where the needle down in there goes. You can see the little tiny pin down in the center. You want to stick this in there. Now pay attention, you'll see there's a little tiny shoulder right on the top, a little lip. Push this in and you'll hear it click. Seat that all the way down in there, just like that. And it should look exactly like that. It can be kind of hard to push the first time because what you're actually doing is you're puncturing a hole right there. You can see now there's a hole. That hole is where the needle in the bottom punctures through in order to wick the juice out of the tank. Now that you've fully seated it, give it a twist and pull it out and make sure that the entire knockout has been opened on the bottom of the tank. Now, in order to fill the tank for the first use, you want to grab on the side. You'll notice there's a little inset on either side of the tank. Get your thumbnail down in there and pop the top right off. Inside, you'll see the little flap left from the knockout, and you can just pull that right off and throw it away. You want to make sure to remove the knockout because otherwise it could block the hole and prevent wicking in the future. Now there's 3 different ways you can fill your tank. 2 are the official ways and 1 is the way that I personally use. I'm going to show you all 3 and you can use the method that works best for you. The first method is the open top bottle method. Now for the open top bottle method, you want to have the top taken off of your filling tank, and you simply take your bottle and pour your e-juice right from the bottle, just like you would with a drip tip, and just fill it right down in there. Now when you fill the bottle, you want to put about 1.1 milliliters of juice in there, which is just a little bit less than completely full. Don't fill it all the way to the top. After the tank is full, you take your little top and snap it back on. Now when you look at the top, you'll notice it has 2 flats on it. Make sure those flats line up to the cap and just snap it back on. Make sure the cap is completely snapped back on. Now something to note, because there's only the small hole in the bottom of the tank, if you flip it over, nothing will run out. It actually traps the juice inside. But if you're not putting it directly into your e-cig, you do want to make sure to put the cap on it for proper safety and to give it a good seal, because this does contain nicotine. You don't want it leaking out in your pocket. It makes a mess. So keep your cap on it when it's not in use. But with it like this, this is totally safe, totally secure, and it won't leak out. It's great. Okay, now here's how to prepare a top using the syringe method. You start with your top brand new in the bag. Take it out of the bag, take off your top. Now, you can see the knockout is still sealed. Put it right into the unit, snap it down, give it a spin, pull it right off, and now our knockout's open. Okay, now here's your filling syringe, and you can see they're marked on the side all the way down to the end as 1 milliliter. You put one of the tips on it. Now this isn't a needle, this is actually a little piece of tubing, and they're soft. It's just a little piece of plastic. All right, now once you've got your syringe filled up just past the 1 milliliter mark, you can see we've got 1.1 milliliters in there. Stick the syringe into the knockout hole and just inject the juice right into the cartridge. And make sure to not fill it up all the way, but just about. Leave a little tiny airspace at the top. And when you're done, just put your rubber stopper back on the top, paying close attention and making sure to line up the notches in the stop with the notches in the tank. And that's the syringe method. Now, here's the third method, which is the Bowden method. This is the way that I do it. It is not an official Volcano method, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway because it's what I do and it's way easier than the other 2. It does require a pretty good touch though. Now, start out with your blank tank, pop your top off, and just like with the others, you got to knock out the plug. Boop, push it in all the way, give it a half twist, pop the plug out. There you go, there's your knockout. Now, snap the top off the tank, just like that, and then clean off your little knockout plug. Now, put your top back on the tank, paying close attention to make sure everything's aligned properly, and it'll snap on with a good positive seal. Now, here's how I do it. Take your bottle. The USAE juice is absolutely recommended for use with this because it makes great vape. Line everything right up. I'll show you a good close view. And then push this right docking tight to the hole. And then just squeeze it right in. leaving a little tiny space at the top, and then you're ready to go. And just put your little cap right on there, making sure to line everything up, the notches on the cap to the notches on the tank. And you're full and ready to go. That's the Bowden method. So there's your 3 different methods for how to fill the tanks of your Tankomizer. The open tank method, the syringe method, and the Bowden method. Okay, now that we know how to fill the tanks, let's take a good look at how they actually work. This is the mouthpiece here, and on the end of the mouthpiece is the vapor hole right there, and that's where the vapor actually comes out. On the other end of the tank is the knockout or fill hole, and this is where you put the juice in, and it's also where the juice gets wicked out to go into the atomizer. Now, in between, there's the tank here, and these notches on the side are actually the air intakes. Up under here, you can actually see a small orifice there, and there's an orifice over here, and these are where the vapor is allowed to pass up through, headed into the mouth hole. You can see the air passages up inside if you look through a clear blank tank. This is why, in use, you'll often see some steam or condensation up inside here. Now, let's take a look at how to assemble the Tankomizer and prepare it for its first use. To put the Tankomizer on the Inferno, simply take the Tankomizer and line it up here, turn it backwards. One turn until you feel the click, and then turn it forward using only the very lightest of fingertip pressure. If it catches, or if you have to force it at any time, you're doing it wrong and you could risk cross-threading the Inferno. You really don't want to cross-thread it. This isn't a press-on fitting like with the old Inferno caps. The Tankomizer actually threads directly into the electrical connection on top, so you want to be careful when you're doing it. So just line everything up, turn it backwards, and you'll feel it click, and then screw it on with fingertip pressure. Seat it down nice and snug. Don't force anything, but just a nice snug seating, and you're ready to go. Now, we've got our filled tank right here, so just take the cap off the top and push it right into the inside of the Tankomizer. Now, you'll notice on the sides, we've got our 2 notches here. There's the notch here, and then 180 degrees off, there's the other notch. Now these are the air intake holes for the Tankomizer. They work similarly to the 2 notched holes up here. Some people report improved results if you line this horizontal axis here up with the 2 holes on the side. Your mileage may vary on this, so we recommend you try and find out what works for you. Personally, I just keep mine flat because I like the way it feels when I have it flat on the top, lined up with the button right on top. But there's people that vape right side up, upside down, and any combination in the middle. You try what works for you and experiment, and over time you'll find out the best system that works for your individual style of vaping. Now's a good time to make sure and check that we're seated all the way down, because you've been fiddling with this, getting it where you wanted it, so you want to make sure that it's pushed all the way in and seated right onto the shoulder. If it doesn't look just like this, you're not seated all the way down to the shoulder. It should have a little click when you get all the way down. Once you've got it in there, take 3 to 4 normal draws without pushing down the button. What you're doing at this point is priming it. You won't get any vape, but you might hear a little bubbling. Now, something you want to be aware of is when you first open these, they have a little bit of juice inside them already, and that juice is called primer juice. It's used in the factory. So you want to get rid of that. So this gives us an excellent opportunity to talk about the proper way to clean your Tankomizer system. All right, so here's everything you need to know to clean your Tankomizer. What you're going to need is a coffee cup, preferably just a regular ceramic coffee cup, and a spoon. If you're really cool, you'll have a titanium spork, just for excellent geek cred. You'll also need boiling water. Now, we have a little pitcher here that heats the water for us, so we're going to use that. You want to put in enough boiling water to completely cover your Tankomizer. Now, you can take and just get a coffee mug, boil the water in a microwave, Totally cool. If you do this in a microwave, make sure to put a plastic utensil like a fork or a spoon or something in there to keep the water from superheating, and do not microwave it with the Tankomizer inside. They're made of metal. Now, once you have your hot water in the cup, set your Tankomizer on your spoon and slowly, carefully lower the Tankomizer into the water. Don't just drop it in there. You could splash water out and burn yourself. Once you've got it all the way in there, stir it around a little bit and make sure you get all the bubbles out. You want to flip it over a couple times because there's a lot of air spaces in there and you can capture bubbles, and you want to make sure everything gets coated in water so that you can wash it out really good. And just knock it around, stir it around in there a little bit, keep it moving for a bit. Now, every few minutes, swish it around a little bit, and just stirring the water can help. You want to keep things moving. You want to leave it in there for about 10 to 15 minutes. Stir it every 5 minutes or so. Just leave it alone, go do something fun. Now, while it's in there, while you're waiting, take some paper towels, 4 or 5 works really good, and just lay them out flat like this, and that's going to be your drying surface when you're done. After you've had it in there for about 15 minutes, take your spoon, just pull it out gently, tip it a couple times and give it a little shake to get all the water out, and then set it vertical on your paper towel and let it dry, preferably overnight. It takes a while to dry out. You want to make sure it's totally dried out. And you can tap it a couple times gently. Don't like snap it down. Just give it a couple taps, knock the water out, and then just leave it sitting on the paper towels overnight, and when you come back tomorrow, it'll be ready to use. Now for a couple things that we do not recommend. There's a lot of talk in the forums, and we want to make sure to get out there. These are the things that we absolutely do not recommend. Using any method to clean the Tankomizer other than exactly what we showed you in the video. This includes power flushing, using Crest Pro Health, rubbing alcohol, denture tablets, dry burning, or anything else. If it's not exactly what we showed you in the video, we do not recommend it. Do not insert anything into any of the openings of the Tankomizer other than the tanks themselves. Do not use toothpicks, needles, pushpins, or any other kind of probe. You can very easily damage things by poking around down inside the atomizer. We do not recommend any other drying method than letting it sit and air dry. This includes dry burning, placing it in an oven, using a hair dryer, or using an air compressor. Just let them sit on a paper towel on the counter and dry out overnight. We do not recommend cutting, shaving, filing, sanding, or trimming any part of the Tankomizers or tanks beyond exactly what we showed you in the video. Do not attempt to modify the Tankomizers in any way, shape, or form, or tamper with any part of the Tankomizer. If for any reason your Tankomizer doesn't function when you get it, meaning it does not produce any vapor, please contact customer service right away and we'll get that sorted out for you immediately. If you develop any problems with your Tankomizers, you can contact customer service and we will try to troubleshoot your problem and help you get back in working order right away. Volcano customer service is legendary for a reason. At this point, your Tankomizer and tank are now ready for their first use. Simply press down the button and inhale. Happy vaping! I'm Chris Bowden with Volcano. We'll see you next time.